Hi, Diane Swan here. Welcome to my channel. So today I'm going to grab a piece of this mixed media paper. It's actually an A3, 140 pounds, which I think works out to about a 300 GSM. So it's nice and thick and will take whatever, or hopefully whatever I throw at it. So here I am, just blank page, and I'm just going to grab a few items. I'm trying to get rid of some products that I've got laying around. So today I thought I'd grab my bucket of tissue paper. I knew I could use it for something, but I didn't know what. But as watching other YouTubers and the great papers that has been created by some of the great, very talented mixed media artists, they use a lot of already prepared tissue paper that has been designed for their own use, that is now available for others. So what I thought I'd do is actually utilize some of these for some texture, some focal point, and for a bit of fun. So first I thought I'd grab the Tim Holtz alphabet that I just got, which is the foam one, and I'm actually just going to add some archival ink, and I'm just stamping it on this pink tissue as is. Haven't taken it off the backboard. I just thought I'd add some of the actual letters, because I love letters in backgrounds, and just print it out and use and see what comes of it as I'm doing. So this time I'm actually using paint, and I'm using some of the Delusion paint and just dabbing it on all the foam pieces. Now I did find you have to be quick with this, because acrylic paint dries fast and it soaks into foam. So, but it worked well. I was really happy with the result, and I found it worked really well in the actual project when I do use it. So I'm just putting these away as is and cleaning up my space a bit, putting this down, and the colour that I'd already used, I'm now using the dauber, and I'm merging it or blending it onto the background. And I found that the mixed media paper really sucked in the colour, but if I added a little bit of water to it, it allowed me to blend a little bit more, which gave me a little bit more use of the actual paint. So I just keep on adding some of the Delusions paints and blending it in to get some more background colour in. I'm also creating some dots, so there'll be different eye points at some point, and I just will continue to dab. It's fun. It's actually quite relaxing, and I find that my heartbeat slows, I get into a nice comfort zone, it helps me relax. I love getting my hands dirty. I love experimenting and seeing what's going to happen. Like, I found that when I actually done a different way of blending, I done things this way, when I added water, it gave me a little bit more options. So I've now got here some colours on the background, some white areas still, some dots for focal points, mixed colours. Sorry, just straighten up the camera, trying to get it right, because I've actually lowered it closer to my art so you can see a little bit more. So after drying it off, I've got some tissue here, some of the yellow, and it actually had, if you've seen it, it actually has some fibre in it, which is really great. So I'm cutting out some hearts, just freehand, no thing, and I'm just going to add 3 to the page. Now, why 3? But it seems to be one of the main, to use odd numbers on art to make it successful or appealing to one's eye. So most of the time when you see me add items, they will be in odd numbers. Usually I use 3. Sometimes you can only use 1, but this time I'm using 3 for that particular point. So then I just grabbed one of my old silicone stamps with some lettering, and I just dabbed them all over. So I'll grab some of the purple tissue and now some of the black tissue, and I'm actually going to cut some circles out. I've got them everywhere here now, with the dots that I've placed, but what will happen when I actually add, because the other thing I'm curious with the coloured tissue paper is, will it bleed? Will the colour bleed out into the background? I find that quite intriguing, which is one of the reasons I'm playing with it. Now I'm using Little Birdie soft gel to add the shapes. I cut some of the grey textured fibre tissue and cut them into stripes to add, and the purple one I cut into larger circles in the black, and so I'm just positioning them in, again, the negatives, but usually I also will do 3 areas or 1 area. So the hearts, 3 hearts in one spot on the actual page. The purple dots so far is in 2, and I'm just doing the second spot for the black dots. And I also remembered to try to take things off the edge a little bit, just to kind of draw eyes to the edge of your page. So if you put one that just slightly over, just hangs off, and then just keep going with the others. So got the grey lines there. So the thing I'm probably missing here is a 3rd lot of the purple dots. I'm not actually sure if I remember if I actually correct that or not. As looking at the final piece, they kind of disappear anyway, so at this stage I'm not so worried, because at the moment I don't even know where this page is going. I'm just having a bit of fun. So I get some of the white paint out, and I'm just going over and blending in a little bit with my finger, having a bit of finger painting, merging and adding them together so that they blend. So this is just to kind of join all the areas together. So now I've got this stencil that I use, which was given to me by my sister. Now, from recollection, it does have a special name, and my sister will correct me in this, but it's actually cut from something being taken a lot of circles out of, so it can be used as a stencil. It's really cool, it's easy to use, and it looks great. And I think with the fact that I've actually already got other circles on the actual background, it merges quite well. And pulling it off with a nappy wipe, baby wipe, sorry, you actually pull the background forward a little bit just so you can see what's going on. So this is one of my containers with a point that I can use to write, scribble, draw around, have a bit of fun. Now, am I actually writing anything? No, I'm actually not. I'm actually just scribbling. It's basically looks like text, but there's no legibility of it. So I drew around the hearts, and I scribbled a couple of areas, and I did a little bit of crossover lines to draw that there. So I've also added now the blue fine point, and I've actually done some crosses and went around some of the black tissue paper. So that I just dropped all over was some of Diane Wakely's gloss spray, and just gave a bit of white splash on it to see, because it kind of allows me time to see what else I would like to do, what else may be needed to continue. So at this stage I could still use this as a background. I've become quite excited about depth and layering and adding more and more which you'll see after I do this dry off. So everything really needed a good dry because I'd actually gone through on wet stages. So now that that's all dried, I've grabbed one of the yellow paints that I'm trying to use up, and I just splattered it on there, and then I grabbed a card and I'm just spreading it everywhere. I kind of added some lines to the background and added some of the yellow that was there in the heart. So I grabbed some orange and I'm just using my brayer on my small gel plate, which I often use as an actual paint palette. Now what I've got here is actually a piece of card that I've folded into the shape of a heart. It's actually quite fun, and I've just held it together with some masking tape, and it's part of a bit of play that I was going to show some of my lady friends who is into journaling, some of the scratches, some of the textures you can build with just what you've got laying around, and that happened to be one of them. So it was a piece of card, didn't matter what size, and all I did was masking tape the two ends together, brought that in on a fold, and then masking tape the top of it so it'd hold together, and then just use it as a stamp, and it works really good, and I'm really happy with it. Also cut off all those excess off lines, and I decided to grab some red paint, and this is using another piece of card which I've twisted around into a circle that kind of looks like when you're doing a scrolling circle motion by hand. So it actually allows you to stamp that really similar in places. So I've stamped that on, and now I've actually grabbed some of that red to pop onto the page, so there was actually a little bit more red in the page. And then I'll grab one of these stencils and actually bring back with a baby wipe and just bring some back. So I'm just going to dry that off again and then have a look at what else I'm doing. So what you see me with now is actually part of an egg cooker, and it was in the kitchen drawer. I took it out and I found you can make these great lines by just painting on the surface and stamping with it. Isn't that cool? It looks, I just love the effect because doesn't all come out in the same spot, but it adds that line effect, which I found really, really interesting. So I'm just going to dry that off as well, because if you're drying between the layers that you don't want to blend, as it's acrylic paint, it's permanent. So as long as there's no wet areas, you have created a permanent part of your background. So that's why when you're looking at them, you can see the depth that's occurred. Now, I think here is where I've missed a bit of recording. Those red hearts were cut out of one of the pink tissue papers, the one that I'd actually stamped with the alphabet from Tim Holtz, and I've put them into clusters on the actual layout in groups of 2 lots of 5 and 1 lot of 3, and then I drew around them with the Stabilo oil pencil, and also then went around with a wet brush and activated the pencil. So that the white dots, white marks that I've just put on is from a Posca pen, one of the larger ones, and I love how it actually adds those little almost opaque-ish, so they're not quite total white, so you actually get a see-through effect with those. And then I've now grabbed my black Posca pen and I'm putting some black dots in areas, and again I'm doing negative areas of that particular texture. So again, I do 5 areas of doing that. So this time I've grabbed one of my smaller parts of one of those gift cards, and I'm actually creating lines in one of the colours that I had put in the background to pull it forward a little bit. So that's quite easy and quite fun. So I'm then grabbing some of it and scraping it on the page as well, again to enhance the actual colours that are in the background, bring them forward, because you kind of do lose some of them as you're doing these sort of layers. Yes, it's good, but sometimes it's not quite what you're after. So this is the white tissue, which will actually go clear when you add it to your background. It can look a bit cloudy depending on the surface and the colour and what actual gel medium you use. If you're using a nice wet one, which this gel medium is, it wets the whole tissue and it becomes see-through. So basically what I'm doing here is actually just adding the stamps, but in random ways, as it's going the opposite way, but it's only in certain areas. So it's just a little bit more control. It adds a little bit more dimension, a bit more texture, and it works. It's tissue. The tissues just work as another part of the actual process, which is really, really fun. So I've added it in quite a few areas to use it up. And again, if I recall, that again was in negative areas. So there was 3, 4, 5, 6, 7 spots, if I recall, of that. So remembering to dry off the gel before going any further, as if the tissue paper is still wet, if you're going to add any more layers, you will tear the tissue. So you've got to be careful of that, because wet tissue will tear quite easily. So I'll just continue drying that just a second, I'll be back. So after I've dried that, I've grabbed some of my border stamps from Kazaz, and I am using the black archival ink, and I'm just placing that again randomly on the page in just different areas, again in like 3 stamps in 3 areas. Now I'm using one of the blue archival inks, and I'll have the names and the actual colours in the final, and I've just done another one of the borders, which is a triangle one, and I think this one is arrows, and I'm using the grey archival ink with that one. So now I've got the orange archival, and to bring some of the orange back through, and that one's using just arrowheads, and that's been placed around in certain areas just to bring back some colour. So this one I'm using is Archival Brilliance. It's a silver, and it has a metallic look, as you can see on my stamps there. Now with this one definitely, and other archival inks, please heat sink before you go to the next stage, because you will rub it off if it's still a little bit wet. It is kind of water active when it's first put on and it's still wet. So please always heat sink your archival inks. So again, I've went and found some more text to stamp, and I've put it again on with the black archival, just randomly here, there and everywhere, just to add a little bit more dimension. So now I've decided to bring out one of my pens and do some scribbling. So this is actually one of the Fudo pens, I think it is, and it's a little bit of a thicker nib than the black that I usually use, and it actually writes quite well on a dried surface. And I'm doing the little random words at corners, and now I'm just doing some hanging like leaf drops, and I'm just doing doing some lines and just kind of drawing things together so that they are connected in some way by using lines to actually merge them together. So again, I'm just doing some doodling here at the edge. And what will I do? Oh, let's just go around a few more of the shapes that are there just to enhance them. And I'll bring out the white gel pen that I've got. Love this pen. Doesn't always work in a run, and it gets very frustrating when it's at the run out stage. But it really pops those pink hearts, and I've just done a little bit of writing in each of them on the right hand side of them, just to make them stand out more. So now I'm just finishing off with a little bit more doodling. I'm going around some of the shapes on the background, adding some circles, just a little bit of, often just adding some small doodling, just draws the eye and kind of, I find, makes the piece more friendly to the eye. Yes, it's very busy, and that's the aim of it, that's the fun of it. It's a background, so I will be making a few more of these backgrounds that are busy, as I've just opened up an Etsy store, and this one is available for sale. And I'm also going to add to it the fact that because it's an A3, I had to scan it into two lots so I could actually have one piece. So I'm actually going to add to this one the two A4s that create the one, so that gives people the option, as I can see this as a double layout, where you use maybe one side for one project, or the other side as another project, or both sides together as one project, your choice. But if you've got the option to print it out on two A3s, you have the two A4s, sorry, you have the A3 like I have got here, and it's quite fun. So I felt the black circles disappeared, so because I really loved the depth of them, so I'm actually going to re-add them to the page. So because they disappeared with the paint and others, I just thought, well, let's re-add them. So that's what I'm doing. I'm re-adding them to the page and just putting them on where they were and bringing them out a bit more out into the foreground. Because as I was going over with the little white dots, I noticed they kind of disappeared, and it didn't feel right. So I thought, well, I've got enough of the black to create some more dots, so I did. And as you just seen, I had to pull one off because I tore it as I was actually adding the gel medium and using the brush a little bit harder. So again, making sure they're all dry on there. Everything needs drying, especially on something with this much layer. And so I'm just going to repeat the processes that I had done earlier on with those particular items. And I'm using this little, I love using these line bottles. It's really good. It's actually a watered down acrylic paint with a little bit of gel medium, which is an extender, which actually allows it to bind a little bit, but also not lose its pigmentation, so you still have it. This one actually probably needs a little bit more acrylic paint, as it does go into the background a bit, or maybe a little bit of black just to darken it a bit. But I like it. And I've also got a similar mix in a couple of little jars, which I have been playing with to learn what household items can do what shapes, which is where I found about creating the heart and the circle maker that I used in this project. So it's kind of useful to often have a thinner or fluid to using these methods. So at some point I'll probably buy some fluid acrylics, but I have got so many acrylic paints. I've got a whole collection of Montmartre that has not been touched. I refuse to touch them until all the old acrylics that I've got, which are starting to dry in tubes, etc., is gone, and I've used it all. So that's what I'm using in these backgrounds. This is another reason I'm creating these backgrounds. So here's the finished product. I hope you like it, and I would be very honoured if you would purchase this off Etsy and show me what you create with it. I will, with this one, I will actually have do another filming of me actually finishing and using this particular background, turn it into something. We'll finish it, add some finishing. Will it be just adding some words, or will it be adding an image? I don't know. But thank you for watching, and I hope you come and visit again soon. So happy crafting, follow your heart.